Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
And they're off.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.
And you're very welcome along to Friday Night Racing, a massive Friday Night Racing with some very meaty topics to get our teeth into. We'll talk about Nicholls a little bit later on. We'll talk about the Locking Stakes as well. But we want to say hello to Johnny Ward. How are you?
How are you, Ger? Good to see you.
A big week for Irish racing, not necessarily in the best way.
No, incredible month. We'll probably talk to Megan on this as well. Megan, obviously, coming from such a big jumps family, I think her dad is going to probably prosper a bit more now because Nicholls will be out of the picture. I think some better horses are going to go over to England maybe that wouldn't have, but between Ruby Walsh retiring and Pat Smullen retiring, big news, huge news, but this was bigger again. And I think Eddie O'Leary and Gordon Elliott didn't know until the night before. Typical Michael, it's just, that's how it is. And
yeah.
But I have to give him kudos for allowing the trainers to have some sort of succession plan in place, because Willie Mullins turned it around overnight in terms of dealing with the loss of Nicholls, but that's a lot easier said than done, especially for other trainers, where he's providing, more than a third of their winners and probably more than a third of their horses. So interesting times ahead. It was a bombshell.
We'll get into it in a bit more detail a little bit later on. But of course, Friday Night Racing is brought to you by goracing.ie, and somebody who is going racing in Ireland today is Megan Nicholls. Megan, good evening, good afternoon to you. How are you doing?
Hi, yeah, all good, thank you. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. So welcome to Dublin. You're racing this evening.
Yeah, I came over yesterday and I actually rode out for Joseph O'Brien this morning, which was good fun. I've never been there before. And then, off to Leopardstown this evening.
What did you make of Joseph's place, actually?
Amazing place, huge yard, completely different to, what I'm used to at Dad's. But it's an amazing setup, yeah.
What were the main differences, actually?
Well, obviously they've got the one gallop, which is about 7 furlongs, a gradual sort of hill. They probably do their general cantering sort of faster than what we normally would. We do a lot more sort of slower work, but a lot more of it. And obviously our hill is more like a mountain than a gradual climb. So that was quite different, but it is an amazing place.
Is horse racing the only industry in the world where you can come with your background and go and hang out with essentially your day-to-day rivals and just share stories and share information? It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's quite cool. And obviously, for me in the future, I'll probably look that way to go training eventually. So to be able to go into so many different yards and, you learn a lot from all these people. It's good that we're able to do that.
That's interesting that you've decided already that you're interested in going training, because we speak to a lot of people on this show every week, and some of them who are connected to the families of trainers are like, absolutely not, it's too hard, I don't have the patience for dealing with the owners, I don't have the patience for dealing with the horses in some cases, or the jockeys. But you've obviously clearly got in your head already that that's what you want to do.
Yeah, look, I'm a long way off it yet. Don't get me wrong, I'm still obviously too young to be doing that just now. But definitely something I would look to in the future, and probably more likely to, I'd rather train flat horses, really, which much to Todd's disappointment.
Well, let's get into this, because
he's not going to be going anywhere for a while, so there's no point taking him on.
Is that what it is? Because so obviously you started out as a national hunt jockey, and then you made the switch to being a flat jockey. Is it just the glitz and glam? It's okay it's completely okay. You can tell us. We're never going to let anybody else know. It's just the glitz and glam of the flat is far more cool now than the national hunt. Isn't that it? Is that what it was?
Well, I mean, partly, and the sun's normally out. No, I'm joking. I mean, I did my first year as an amateur, and I had a great time point to pointing and hunter chasing and everything. But in reality, I'm too small, really. Some of the girls riding now, Bryony, Lizzie Kelly, Katie O'Farrell, Rachel, they're a good nearly 2 stone heavier than me, which is crazy because they're small girls. But I'm light, and I was lugging around weights which were ridiculous, the poor horses, and They're really, really tough, and I'm not sure I'd take the falls like they sort of can. And I guess after the pony racing, I did that sort of growing up. I just got more in love with the flat.
Yeah, it's so different as well, you know. Just I guess, Megan, the flat is so much about getting your pace right, and everything's happening so much faster. But how would you compare the buzz of the two?
I don't know. It is very different, like you say. I don't know why. If I had the choice of going and working a 5 furlong sprinter or going and schooling a nice handicap chaser, I'd ride the sprinter every day. I don't know what it is.
Are you really Paul Nichols' daughter? You know, the way you're talking. This is all wrong.
Like, all wrong, I know, and he'll be appalled listening to this, but no, he knows now. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's always just done more for me. I'm much more interested in the breeding on the flat. I think it's a much bigger thing. And there's just sort of more avenues, I think, that you can sort of go down. Maybe I'm completely wrong, and I'm probably going to get a slap on the hand for saying that. But that's sort of from my point of view, there's more sort of places I could go.
When did this penny drop? Was it always like that? Like the comparison you made between the sprinter and the chaser a little bit earlier on, was it like that when you were 12, 13, 14 already?
Well, I suppose I in some of my sort of summer holidays during school, I went off and rode out for sort of Charlie Hills and a couple of people like that, and I really enjoyed that. And but then sort of as I turned amateur at 16, obviously I was pretty much always in dads, so I kind of like jumping was always like the way forward. But I actually then got the chance I had a couple of rides in the lady amateur races, had a bit of luck with a few of them, and sort of after that I just knew straight away. And at the end of that summer, I turned around to Dad. It must have been about October, November. The pointers were back in getting ready, and I told him I don't want to do it anymore. And I mean, I'm lucky to still be sat here now, but
what is your dad like, actually?
What's he like
to work for?
I mean, for me, he's a legend, but I'm sure not everyone would say that. No, I'm joking. He is. This season, he's been the easiest and the most relaxed for a long time. And I think having the better horses helps a lot. And we've got a really, really good bunch of staff. And I know everyone struggles, you know, for numbers of staff and good riders and everything. But for some reason, the last year, we've done really, really well. And I think that helps a lot. And it's a lot less stress on Dad. And so this season, he has been an absolute legend to work for.
Yeah, I feel with him that there is a resurgence happening, that he maybe had a bit of a lull sort of the last couple of years where essentially he didn't have the firepower, but is there a sense there that the next sort of 3 or 4 years going forward, and we have the news from Jigginstown as well this week where I'd imagine more horses are going to be heading over to Britain maybe than was the case. Is there renewed optimism now in your dad's yard in Ditcheat?
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, coming into last season, I wasn't all confident that we could regain it. Not because a lot of our horses are youngsters that are, you know, hopefully going to be progressive, and we were sort of still unsure of those horses which would step up. I mean, you know, coming into the season, you wouldn't have said Clandazobo was going to win the King George, and he's obviously stepped forward, but he's still only a young horse. And you know, for the first time in sort of a good few years, we've had quite a few bumper winners, and those sort of youngsters are looking really smart. And I thought it would be another 2 or 3 years before they are, you know, hopefully running in the top level hurdles or chases. But actually, that started happening sooner than I thought. And you know, like you say, now, you know, Gigginstown have been great for racing, but an absolute nightmare for us because we just can't outbid them. If they want a horse, they want the horse, you know. And hopefully now that's sort of one less person to go against, and you know, we can hopefully see a few more of those smart youngsters coming our way.
Megan, this might be a stupid question given the success that you guys have had, but loads of the best Irish national hunt trainers have also dabbled a little bit in flat racing, and increasingly so. You see, even Willie Mullins has had some great flat horses recently, and you can see the yards realising that it's an all-round all year round thing. It's just good for business. It gives you more opportunities, and essentially the brain power required to train a horse is the same brain power required to train a horse. It's not like you've got to massively reinvest in an entirely different industry. Is there any prospect ever of your dad going down that route?
Well, I am getting more. So the last couple of years we have last year was the first year we had I don't know, it was maybe 8 or 9 winners on the flat. And I think during the jump season, he has absolutely no interest. And then actually come the end of April, when we've no horses in, he's bored and he decides he suddenly loves it. So hopefully we can get a few more of those like dual purpose types. We've had some nice juvenile hurdlers that have needed a break, in fairness, and we'll see a few of them off quite nice handicap marks in the autumn. But we are getting a few more. It's just, we'd love to have a real good stayer, for some of those big handicaps. Unfortunately, Cliffs of Dover, obviously, he's a very talented horse, and he's picked up a small injury, so he's out this summer, which is a shame. But we've got a few more. Moabit, who won sort of 3 for us, he's coming back in soon. So we have got a few, and like I say, those juvenile hurdlers, the likes of Kel Destin, who's a Grade 1 winner, Christopher Wood, and those kind of horses will run in the autumn.
Is it a worry for you at the moment, and when you become a trainer, is it a worry in terms of the prize money situation in Britain?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is, there is so much racing. And I don't think the prize money, they were saying that the prize money has sort of stayed the same or decreased in some areas, but I think it's just the fact that the pot in general has been the same, but the racing has increased. And the amount of, in the winter, on the all-weather, that you've got these 0 to 85 handicaps at, Lingfield or whatever, and you've got 4 runners. But these 0 to 55 races, there's 45 entries, and no one could get in. But the difference in prize money between a 0 to 55 and a 0 to 85 is so minimal. It's not good enough. And I think, obviously the flat trainers made a massive point of boycotting Lingfield and other places. I don't want to put it on Lingfield, that sounds awful, but it's not ideal. But then you go and look at some of these big handicaps, and it's the Ebor's worth £1 million this year, but it's so hard in that middle range. I think is where something needs sort of sorting out.
We should also thank Katie O'Farrell for being our offsite engineer, for setting up the Skype and the laptop this afternoon. So
Jockey, Milner and technician.
Yeah,
what a lady.
Yeah, she's actually just done a runner. Hopefully she'll be back in a minute and she can come and say hi.
You're racing against each other tonight?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting going to Leopardstown as well, because it's very hard to get on this show. We've a strict kind of requirement in terms of what you've achieved, and she's having her first ride in Ireland tonight, and she's straight on the show, so it must be it's a beautiful track to ride in, I'd imagine, as well, which I'm sure you'll find out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously I've been over to watch Dad's horses running and stuff, but I've never obviously ridden over here, so I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously it's a Grade 1 track, and it's a good race. They've put on some really good prize money for this, and it's a good initiative. It's great sponsors. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
How did you find? How did you get hook up with Gavin Cromwell?
So actually, they sort of got in touch with my agent. Leopardstown have been really helpful. They put out all our details and made sure that all the trainers knew we were available. and he sort of got in touch quite early, and I was lucky enough to get on.
So we've obviously been talking about the long-term future. What's the short-term future? What are your ambitions as a jockey in the immediate short term, this season, next season, the next couple of years? What do you want to be?
Well, I've just gone down to my £3 claim, which was obviously, the next sort of target. So now obviously I've got to ride my claim out. I'd love to be riding in these big handicaps, on a regular basis. And there's been a real improvement improvement may be the wrong word, but, there's some really good girls coming through now, over with us, the likes of, Hayley's been around for a bit longer, but Holly Doyle, Nicola Curry, Josephine Gordon, the last couple of years have, really taken off. And they're a couple of years older than me and had a bit more experience. But, hopefully now I'm down to my 3. I'm starting to get a bit busier. My agent's been working really hard for me. And I just, if that can continue and I can get some good contacts, then who knows? We'll see what happens.
It's interesting you reference, though, like female riders. Is it not just a case of Megan Nichols, the jockey, she's good enough to get rides, it doesn't matter what she is?
Well, yeah, of course, that's the point. If your agent's ringing up to offer you to, a trainer or an owner, then you want them to want you because you're capable of riding the horse. But, I think people have been spectacle on it and have been lady jockeys, but those girls are a prime example of the fact that they are more than capable at a top level, and hopefully I can be also.
And do you have a target in your head for the number of rides that you'd like to get over a course of a season, and then that for you becomes success, and then the next stage up of that? Or do you kind of, because like everything, if you don't have some end goal, some target to aim at, it's going to be hard to get there, and it's hard to know where you are in the staging posts along the way.
Yeah, of course. For me, I'd like to be aiming for sort of 20, 25 winners this season, obviously an increase of rides. But so far, I'm much in numbers. I'm much higher this year. At this stage than I have been the last couple of seasons. So hopefully that can continue. Really only as of, the last sort of week or so, racing's properly got busy. So hopefully sort of after Royal Ascot, it's flat out, and, hopefully we can, keep busy and keep banging in a few winners. How
do you get better as a jockey at this stage of your career? Like, what are you doing? Is it physical? Is it tactical? Is it fitness? Is it nutrition? What are you doing?
I think there's, a lot that comes into it. We're very lucky. We have our jockey coaches, and I have Roddy Green, and I speak to him most days on the phone. I go and see him, practice things on the exerciser, go over all our races. And he's been a massive help. Just, nitpicking little things that you might not necessarily pick up on. And that's been a massive help. And, getting used to your body as well. Obviously, having ridden as a amateur before, not having to worry about my weight carrying 12 stone round point to points, to then having to make sure I'm the right weight, but strong and fit, and, not having to sweat the whole time. You've got to get that balance right. And that doesn't happen overnight. And I think, sort of towards the end of last season and now coming into this season, I'm probably, a happy medium. And I'm happy with my weight. My fitness is probably the best it's ever been. But all those things help. And, the fitter you are, the sharper you are in your mind. And you've got to have, confidence as well. You can't be going into these races with no confidence. It's a waste of time. So it's once you start riding a bit better and having a bit of luck, I think that helps massively too.
Yeah, confidence is obviously the kind of key little bit of magic dust that all sports people always talk about, and it's such an intangible thing. You talked about your weight there, and it's always something that jockeys obsess about. And I wonder, is this a little bit difficult or a little bit different for male and female? Because obviously, the whole issue of body image is something that men don't really have to worry about in their day-to-day lives, but women so frequently, and it's one of the worst parts about humanity, is that it becomes a topic of discussion from strangers, and it certainly has always been something that women have had to deal with. Is that something that you've not had to deal with, or is that something you had to kind of address as you go along?
I'm quite lucky because touch wood, my weight's pretty good, but at the end of the day, it's my job. So if I want to be fully committed to my job, then it doesn't matter sort of how I look. If, the lot of us in the weighing room are always saying, oh, we've got such muscly arms, we look like a bloke when we wear a dress. But at the end of the day, you look at those Olympic athletes, they're exactly the same, If that's what you're committing to, you can't worry about that. And I think if you are worrying about that, then you're in the wrong job. Don't get me wrong, when you go to the races, it's nice to look smart and, dress up, and Royal Ascot and Goodwood and places like that, of course. But at the end of the day, you're there for one reason, and that is to ride the horses. Yeah,
and it's an incredibly empowering image, I think, to put out for young females who are looking for role models in the world of sport, that I am tough and I am strong, and the thing that I'm interested in here is the strength as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, 100%. And, it's physical strength, and, mental strength is the biggest thing. And, if you've got to be thick-skinned at the end of the day, and if you're not, then it's, you can't take things to heart. You've got to, you have got to be really strong. And I think I'm lucky that I've got quite a lot of dad's side of it in me. So I've had that sort of...
God, you got to elaborate on that now.
Yeah, well, he's
choosing her words really carefully when it comes to her dad, like, really carefully.
Because if he's listening, I'm going to get a phone call in a minute, and my phone's going to be flashing in the background. No, he's, I think he's got fire in his belly. He's pretty tough, and I luckily have sort of picked a bit of that up. I don't know if that's always lucky, but most of the time I think it is.
Yeah, no, definitely. You need a killer instinct to be a jockey. With Johnny Murta in a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, we were having a nice, casual, friendly chat with Johnny, dropping joke after joke, and we asked him about, what's the best is winning. Like, kind of, what's the most important winning? And Joseph O'Brien was exactly the same. It was winning. If you want to be a top jockey, you also need to kind of, to be friends with everybody in the weigh room, but you kind of need to, metaphorically, slit their throats when it comes to the finishing line. When did you learn that? When did you acquire that skill?
I don't know. I think, to be fair, when I was riding pony racing, Dad just drilled it into me. He was like, once you're out there, like, no prisoners, like, don't care. Like, literally, it's you, your horse, get it done. So I kind of, I guess as well, I've always, through school and everything, I've always been really sporty, and, once you're on the field, it doesn't matter who's there. You're getting the job done. So, me and Katie are good friends, and she's been great to me the last couple of days, looked after me over here, and once we're out there, you don't even think about it. And afterwards, it's, again, if one of you has a bit of luck, that you're the first to congratulate them, and that's brilliant. But actually during the time, it just doesn't even cross your mind.
Yeah, Megan, you've been great with your time. I know you've got to go. So is it 5 o'clock or 5:30 this evening you're out?
Yeah, so the race is at 7:35.
7:35, yeah.
But we will be there. I get a nice walk around the track, and hopefully we'll have a bit of luck.
Well, best of luck. Thanks a million. You've been great with your time, Megan. Thanks.
Thanks, Megan.
And best of luck tonight.
Cheers.
It's Megan Nichols there. I should give you the full details of exactly the race that she's riding in. It's the 50,000 Microsoft
50
Cup.
grand. I wanted to break into a bit of Italian because she's riding a horse called Ciao for Gavin Cromwell, who has a good chance.
Oh, yeah? What kind of price at the minute?
5-1. Gavin's in great form, and actually I think Megan could, if she could hook up with Gavin maybe more when he's horses in England, which is quite regular actually, particularly in the all-weather. I don't see any reason if she wins tonight. She's a very talented jockey. I'm a bit surprised that she's not riding more.
Let me give you the full. So it's the 50,000 Microsoft Cup Ladies Rider Handicap, and it's the most valuable race for lady riders in Europe. It goes to post tonight at 7:35. So if you're listening to this on the radio, you'll know whether or not
Megan has won.
Yeah.
It's a good initiative because I don't. She's never ridden here before. Hayley Turner would have. The odd bit. Some of the other jockeys, I can't say I know much about them. Paula Muir, I doubt has ridden here before. But then you have like Laura Hourigan, Katie O'Farrell, obviously, Anya O'Connor, Sheila Hearn, and so forth. And this is nice prize money for a jockey like that as well. And it brings a lot. Like a lot of the chat tonight will be about this race because it's a lady riders race, it's a new initiative, and the likes of Megan coming over and seeing what she's like. She's never ridden here before. She's Paul Nichols' daughter. Just adds a bit of intrigue to the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it gives them a chance to advertise their talents because, as she alluded to there stupidly still is a bit of a kind of a stigma. I don't think it exists really here anymore, but she seemed to be alluding that it exists in Britain, maybe a little bit.
Yeah. All right, just a quick reminder, tomorrow, the 18th of May, sees the inaugural Horse Racing Ireland Ownership National Racehorse Trainer Open Morning, which will take place nationwide. The Racehorse Trainer Open Morning will see trainers around the country open their doors to the public on Saturday morning. Racing fans and potential new owners will have the opportunity to get behind the scenes of training yards right around the country and meet some of the top trainers, see their horses on the gallops and learn a bit more about how the yard works and find out the many ways to get involved in racehorse ownership. The yards are all free to attend, but you do have to pre-register on racehorseownership.ie/open morning. And if you haven't had the chance ever to go and see how a yard works, this is a good opportunity for you. Some good insight into Paul Nichols there. Hard as nails, telling his kids, whatever happens when you get out there, don't worry about it. Don't care. Just win.
Yeah, he's. I don't know Paul that well. I've met him a couple of times, and I found him to be very forthright and not much nonsense out of him. And he wouldn't say like overly charming, but he kind of just seems a bit of a normal bloke who knows what he wants in life, and he had a bit of a lull. Like this season's been very good for him. I think he's going to rise now again. I don't
have as much of a sense of the power of the National Hunt trainers in England and the UK. Is he bigger than everybody else? Is there anybody close to him?
Nicky's been bigger because Nicky Henderson has just had, like, he's had Altior, he's had Bouverdare, he's obviously had going back then to Sprinter Sacre, and he's had Paul Nichols has just had a lack of very good horses for a while. And I remember last year at Cheltenham, it looked like he was going to have no winner, and this was like, wow. And Ireland had 17 winners that year, and he pulled 2 out of the fire towards the end, and it's kind of been an uphill story for him ever since. And he didn't become a bad trainer overnight. He just, I don't know where maybe the horses that he's acquiring from the owners just not quite up to what the likes of Jigginstown were acquiring. And
that was also an interesting insight. It's like, Jigginstown gone, if they want a horse they buy it.
Yeah, well, it's funny though that it was a stat actually that Owen from the point.ie was telling me during the week for a piece I was writing for the Business Post on Sunday about Jigginstown. Of the 77 horses in Ireland that cost 100 grand or more from Point to Points last year, how many would you think Jigginstown bought?
Were they? Was that an average Jigginstown year, or was it like were they already starting to tail off?
I think it was average to slightly below average.
47. Right, that's good. So that means that they haven't just been stockpiling for the last couple of years, and other people have them.
So an awful lot of British buyers are there, but it's just not all that apparent where these horses are going in terms of high achievement, because the top performers from Ireland in point to point seem to end up winning in Ireland. This is the big thing that Jigginstown gone is going to leave a big crevice in terms of like the Irish-British narrative. I think has changed literally with that press release on Wednesday, in that Jigginstown kept all their horses in Ireland. They had 225 individual horses last year, none of them cheap. They're all basically gone, and JP spreads his horses around both countries. I don't see an obvious replacement for Jigginstown. So I think the days of Ireland winning more often at Cheltenham than the British will probably be gone soon enough.
Is there no way of the industry stepping up collectively and deciding that it's important that you have that number of horses in training in Ireland, or is that just how business works?
It's business, yeah. Like if the main owners want to send their horse to Nicky or Paul Nichols or Colin Tizard or whoever,
Training fees would be roughly the same.
they'd be actually more expensive over there when you think about it. With the more expensive yet really terrible prize money in Britain. It's going to be a real issue going forward as well with fob tees and shops closing and all that. Like British racing is going to have a funding issue without a shadow of a doubt. But there are wealthy owners. I mean, Jigginstown, what would they be getting out of it? Like Michael O'Leary would have lost a lot of money on racing despite all his success. It's not like getting involved in ownership it's something. If you're getting involved, be realistic. It's not really a means to make money unless you're very fortunate. And so it needs like a sugar daddy to come in and say, oh, well, O'Leary's out of the game, maybe that gives me a chance. But I don't think there's anyone really willing to take up that mantle. I just think the pie has gotten smaller, but it'll be shared a bit more equally.
Yeah, okay. The Total Irish Injured Jockeys Charity Fund remains at €4,429.44 after La Sorralita failed to fire at Killarney last Sunday. Close run or no? Nothing?
Ran okay, a bit disappointing. Yeah.
The weekend action will come from Navan tomorrow and a high-class card from Naas on Sunday that includes 2 Group 3 races. In the UK, Aidan O'Brien will look for more Group 1 glory in the Lock-in Stakes at Newbury with Le Brivido.
Yeah, my nap of the weekend actually.
Oh yeah?
Or certainly one of my bets the weekend. Yeah, this is it's always a fascinating race. I remember Hawkwing winning this years ago by a huge margin. Aidan won it last year with Rhododendron.
Let's break it down in 1 second. I have two more lines of my read to do here.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Oh, you've been doing this long enough.
Bloody hell.
While the second leg of the US Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes, will take place at Pimlico, and Tote will, of course, have full betting available. So, remember, you can enjoy the Tote versus SP best price guarantee on all Irish racing this weekend. See thetote.com for more. Well, let's talk about the Lock-in Stakes then.
Yeah, obviously Beat the Bank. He's 160 and entered for Andrew Balding. Then you have Lawrence, who was a heroine at Leopardstown last year, a race probably notable for Jesse's very good filly Alpha Centauri getting injured and unfortunately not racing again. But there was interesting chat about this horse going into his run at Naas. They got him out of France. He's run over different trips in France, but he looked to me like he needed a run at Naas.
Which horse?
Labravido, sorry. And Ryan Moore goes to ride him tomorrow. I could see this horse being very well backed. Aidan is flying. I wrote a piece this morning about the dominance Aidan is going to have, and Joseph and Donncha. Donncha's going to go training, as he sort of told us. But Aidan, as he is the moment, I think he's an absolute certainty to win the Derby, probably with Sir Dragonaut. And I think he can take this as well.
Okay, with Labravido?
Labravido, yeah.
Okay, anything else you like in that? Anything else we should be looking at?
Well, I suppose if you want to talk about Navan, I think this was my bet of the weekend.
Is Linger in the 440 at Navan tomorrow?
Memories of the Cranberries. I presume that it was probably named after their iconic tune that I think everyone loved back in the day. This horse was with Shark Hanlon, first start for Joseph in the colours of the Rugby and Racing Syndicate of Johnny Murphy.
Oh yeah,
regular guests on Off the Ball, and they seem to be buying quite well. This was very well bought. I think it was $6 or $7 grand. It was actually a horse. I was chatting to a mate of mine last year. I was saying this is a horse that could be interesting because if it changed yard, because it kind of had lost its form, but it had proven ability and wasn't that old. We'd actually bolted up at Goran first time out. It's running in the 440, the Troytown Bar handicap. A lot of people in Navan will be familiar with the Troytown Bar. Great view of the race course, and as they come into the parade ring, I think this horse, I can't see him beaten, to be honest, in the 440 tomorrow.
Okay, and what kind of price do you expect him to go off?
5 to 4 maybe.
All right, so it's a short price this week to get us back on track. So Linger was with Joseph O'Brien, obviously.
Not so much back on track. We're just stopped in at the station. We're going again now.
Yeah.
Linger's with Joseph O'Brien, yeah.
A little bit of impetus. And where's the threat in this race?
No threat.
Right, I like the sound of that, Johnny.
That's either an implication of confidence or the fact that I haven't looked at the rest of the field, but it's actually the former.
Okay.
And a bit of the latter.
So that is Navan tomorrow. What about Naas on Sunday?
excellent race meeting at Naas. Good to firm ground. A little bit of rain coming in here. We've a couple of Group 3s, the Lacken Stakes and the Coolmore Stud EBF Filly Sprint Stakes. So wonderful Warfront filly that Ryan Moore rides, first time out, was second to Peace Charter. They re-opposed. Very interesting race. Wouldn't have much, probably maybe marginally Peace Charter for Ger Lyons. Outstanding trainer as well. And then the Lacken Stakes, this is a classy enough contest now. Again, Aidan very well represented. I would probably be with So Perfect, the Scat Daddy filly, who ran a nice race at Newbury on her comeback. And again, Ryan Moore takes the ride. So Ryan has a busy weekend riding for Ballydoyle, and I think he's going to have a few winners, but maybe Megan will get the buzz for Irish racing and come back again, because it's we have some great racing on at the moment.
Yeah,
high
so
quality stuff.
Leopardstown tonight, Navan tomorrow, and Naas on Sunday. Yeah,
and on to the Curragh then next weekend. All eyes on the Curragh for the Guineas weekend, and it's going to be intriguing. It's just opened.
This is the first really high profile, everybody coming to it.
Yeah, like the first day back, there were 3,600 people. I think the Curragh definitely has a challenge to get people racing, but I don't think that's a challenge for the Curragh alone. I think people need to be... I think people need to appreciate the flat more, in terms of when you go racing, the beauty of the horses, being able to see them in the parade ring. I don't think television does it justice even remotely just yet. I think there's an awful lot of work to do with that. High definition has brought David Attenborough to a level that nobody could ever understand years ago, but I think with racing we're miles behind. I really do think that. I was saying that the night of Ruby Walsh, the night that we spoke about his potential retirement, which he rubbished before he retired the following week, just like goggles and like speed cam stuff, so much to go on, but until such time you don't appreciate horses enough until you go racing. And I think the Curragh have done a great job. I know there's been a little bit of criticism. I think they can work more in terms of making it a race day experience, in terms of what brings you racing. That means it's more of an incentive than not kind of staying at home and being on the TV. But next weekend I would encourage everyone to go racing. The Curragh is a magnificent facility now. The parade ring is fantastic. Beautiful views of the surroundings. Quality racing. We're world leaders in racing. You're seeing the best horses, the best jockeys, the best trainers, and if you're not interested in that, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, you should definitely not take this for granted, because I'd say everybody just assumed that Michael O'Leary would retire and eventually, pass into whatever comes next in the world. Probably nothing. As an owner, as like a massive owner of Irish horses, and then one day he just decided, no, in the next 5 years I'm out of this. So
yeah,
we shouldn't take for granted Aidan O'Brien's amazing.
Totally. I wrote something about that today. It's like we are in an era where I
see some criticism of people saying that they find it hard to get behind the conglomerations of the massive yards, but I don't really understand that.
Well, I think if you want to bring the likes of Ger Lyons on the show and ask him about taking on Tree O'Brien's training maybe next year, you can sulk about it, or you can do what Ger Lyons does and try to improve and try to match them. Not everyone wants to have a horse with Aidan O'Brien, Dunick or Joseph. You can offer them something else. Aidan has raised the bar. Joseph's doing a great job. What Michael O'Leary did in terms of keeping the horse in Ireland, and there's a deep philosophical question for horsemen and horsewomen in Ireland. Do you want good horses here, or do you care enough? And that's what it's all about, because we're world leaders in racing, we're world leaders in bugger all, and we should be very proud of that, really proud of that. Maybe we're world leaders in golf. You'd have a better opinion of that than me, but we're really world leaders in racing.
Yeah, we bat above our average in golf, but we're not world leaders.
We bat above average in rugby probably and golf, but in racing we have the best. And I guess if you don't appreciate the beauty of the really good horse, like less than 10,000 people came out to watch See the Stars, his only start in Ireland as a 3-year-old. Well, then you've to ask yourself, how much do I really love horse racing? And I would hope the Irish people would answer that favourably.
All right, Johnny, good stuff this week. That is Friday Night Racing in the books for you. As ever, we are brought to you by GoRacing.ie, and if you are heading along to Leopardstown tonight, or Navan or Naas, or the Curragh next week, then you'll get all the details in advance on that website, GoRacing.ie. That is Friday Night Racing for you this week. We'll be back with next week's Friday Night Racing at 3 o'clock, streamed across all of our social channels and offtheball.com. If you're listening to this on the radio, then we also stream it live on a Friday afternoon if you want to watch whatever it is that Johnny's wearing for this week. And modelling. Are you going to ever bring in some of your partner's hats and put them on, model them for us?
She hasn't made me a hat yet. 10 or 11 months into our relationship.
Oh.
Watching, every time I watch like old, I don't know if you know the Smithsonian channel on, it's a new channel on Sky, but they've a lot
magazine, but
yeah, so they've loads of like footage of amazing footage last night of America in the 30s during the Depression. Everyone was wearing hats, and she's really envious of like looking back in the day where everyone wore hats.
she hasn't. Milliner was like coining it.
It was absolutely coined, and everyone was probably a milliner. But we're dating 10 or 11 months, and it's Johnny Ward has no hats.
See you next week, folks.
Friday Night Racing.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Go Racing. Plan your day at the races at goracing.ie.